Hello, my name's Julie Lanigan. I'm a paediatric dietitian from the UCL Institute of Child Health. So if your child doesn't want to eat, this can be a real concern for parents. It's one of the biggest problems. Parents worry that their children aren't eating enough, that you're not having enough fruits and vegetables, so you're not alone in that. But most children are actually very good at eating to their own appetite and making sure they're taking enough in. And you really don't need to worry. If you see that your child is growing well, has enough energy to run around, do things that other children do, is sleeping well, then you can be very reassured. You do have to have in the back of your mind, is this serious? Is something wrong? And then you go to the GP and get them to check. But in general, these fears quite natural for parents to have, but really usually nothing to worry about, and children will grow out of these picky, fussy eating habits. Yes, I think parents can be very good role models. So I know we all have busy lifestyles these days with many parents going to work, but it's good to try and eat as a family so that the child sees how mum, dad, elder brothers and sisters are eating. You can bring friends in who eat well to be a role model for your child. It's always good not to try and force, not to use foods as rewards, because this has been seen not to work. So for example, you don't say you can have a chocolate pudding if you eat your broccoli or your vegetables. That really doesn't work. So it's about being calm, being assertive and being authoritative rather than being forceful with children, and just taking it calmly. There is a difference, although it's very hard to distinguish, and sometimes they are lumped together. So they're very subtle differences, really, where a picky child can exclude foods from many groups and only eat certain foods, whereas a fussy child is typically somebody who might eat something one day and then the next day suddenly that's really not something that they like. It's very subjective. What you think is picky and fussy might just be normal behaviour to a child. They have a natural fear of new foods, and this kicks in from about the age of 1. So this is really protecting them from eating anything that's bad for them. So it's nothing really to worry about. They'll naturally want to have sweet foods, and they'll naturally be a little bit worried about anything new. But the trick here is to make sure that you keep offering those new foods. So sometimes it can take many times, maybe 10, 15 times for a new food to be on the plate before a child sees it, becomes familiar, decides it's safe and will happily eat it. So it's really about taking your time and being relaxed. I think the best tips you can give is to really be aware of your child's cues. So a child will indicate to you when they're hungry or when they're not ready to eat. And mums may be very concerned with offering foods at precise meal times, but actually children are they graze, they eat things during the day, and it may be that the meal is offered at a time when a child's just had a snack or a drink. So that's one important thing. Your child may genuinely not be hungry. So when you offer the meal is important, making sure your child isn't tired or hungry or simply grumpy for some other reason. So timing is everything. Also trying to include family members, make meal times fun, be a good role model, and just make the whole thing a calm occasion. If things do get out of control and meal times are taking overly long, then we advise mums not to spend more than half an hour over one meal. You can always offer another meal later on. So this is something I definitely wouldn't recommend for young children. This is a time when eating habits are formed. It's a critical time, and we're trying to instill healthy eating. So we don't want to give children a drink where they don't know what's in the drink. We want them to recognise foods, understand what a fruit and a vegetable looks like, different foods on the plate. So I think this really isn't an advisable way of feeding young children. Offering fortified foods that have extra vitamins added to increase the nutritional content is something that we would recommend. So many foods, breakfast cereals, breads, milks, do have added vitamins in them, and that's okay. For me, a whole meal supplement would only really be appropriate for a child who had a disease or who was unwell, and that would be advised through a healthcare professional. Yes, that one comes up time and time again. I think children will eat vegetables if they become familiar with them and they're offered them enough times. So they need many exposures sometimes to these new vegetables. And sometimes mums worry that there's not a huge variety of vegetables in the diet, but it may be that provided children are having a complement of fruits and vegetables, and the colour often gives you a clue about what vitamins would be, so a different coloured fruit, different coloured vegetable will have different vitamin contents. So they may have a limited range, and that can be expanded as the weaning period progresses, and really that's what weaning means. It means a customising. So I always try to tell mums not to worry too much, and their children probably will eventually accept most foods. So you're asking me, is it good for young children to have snacks, and what would be good suggestions for snacks? Well, because small children have small stomachs to go with their size, they do need to eat little and more often. And so it is a good idea that they have 3 meals a day, just as we do, but also 2 snacks in between. And right from the beginning, we should try to introduce all the food groups into those snacks. So these should be a mixture of starchy carbohydrates, of fat, and also include fruits and vegetables. So a good example would be some chopped up carrots and cucumbers and tomatoes with some healthy dips like hummus or a yogurt-based dip. Or it could be a fruit and a plain piece of bread, a piece of toast or a scone, something like that would be an ideal snack for a young child.